106.7 KROQ is KROQ. This is the Kevin and Bean Show, and the man responsible for that song, Mike Shinoda, has joined us in studio. Hey, Mike.
Hi. How are you?
It's been a few days. How have you been?
I'm doing good today, thank you.
Last time I saw you was at Hollywood Bowl.
Yes.
For that show.
That was a heavy experience. I'm in much better headspace today.
I mean, I got to be honest, it was strange because when everybody went to that, it was like, what do we expect?
Yeah.
How is it going to go?
I was actually I was kind of surprised that so many people. I felt like everybody like clamored to get the tickets. Right, the tickets they were gone before they even went on sale. And I felt like people almost like bought the tickets, went, yeah, we got to go to the show. And then went, oh no, we got tickets to the show. What's the show even going to be?
Yeah, that was me. I mean, it wasn't oh no, but I really was curious, like, what is it?
Totally. And it was obviously for every reason, super hard show to do. But just even on a simple, the fact that the longest set we've ever done really is like around 90 minutes, and that show was over 3 hours long. Of course, I mean, we're talking about the tribute show for Chester, so it was like we felt like putting a show. We wanted to do something that was almost like a way to bring our whole Linkin Park community together, because there was no like public funeral or anything like that. So we wanted to bring everybody together in that way and just celebrate him and celebrate the catalog and the community.
Now, let me ask you about that just for a second. It's different for everybody else because everybody else has the experience where they learn to love Chester and are going to miss him and everything else. For you, it's A, your entire business.
Yeah.
And B, you're the one that has to be on stage and sort of try to help people make sense of it, and maybe you haven't made full sense of it yet.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. So I think like you guys played. I put out a batch of 3 songs a little while ago, and one of them is called "Over Again." Over Again.
And I love that song.
Thank you.
It's a shame that it happened, but I love that song.
Right. Like nobody, what I was getting at is like with that song, I wrote the first verse of that song the day we were doing the Hollywood Bowl show. We were about to do it. And then I wrote the second verse. I wrote and recorded the first verse that day. And then the next day I wrote and recorded the second verse. And that's been kind of like, I think on the day that I did that, I realized I had been writing these songs and they were helping me navigate, just emotionally, but also logically, like just helping me navigate everything that was going on. And there wasn't going to be any clear answers to things a lot of times. That things we're just gonna have to wait and see, and we're just gonna have to go with the flow. But
you're never comfortable in that position.
It's hard. It's really hard, and especially to do it on camera. Right? Like that's the part that like committing to say, so it was around that time that I said, I've written a few songs, and I think that what I learned from that Hollywood Bowl show was that just just sharing them, whether or not they were hard to listen to, or whether or not they were, because some were going to be hard to listen to for other people, some were going to be hard to put out, and other ones like I think they've moved away from that in terms of like some days you just feel better, right, a little bit better, and so that's kind of what with the starting point for this body of the album that I'm putting out. It comes out June 15th. And it's called Post Traumatic. The EP was called Post Traumatic, but the album is called Post Traumatic. So the Post Traumatic comes out on the 15th, and it starts in that place. Like it starts in the dark. It starts in grief, and it just like our lives. We just go from there to wherever we go. Like that's what this music does. Like there's stuff in the beginning of it that's that way, and then like the song you just heard. There are points when you find yourself going like, oh, I can go outside and like have like a relative, I can have a normal day. Like I'm not like confined to my bedroom or to like, being sad about what's happened.
But like the song Over and Over, then all of a sudden you'll be having a regular day.
That is true. Yeah.
And anybody that's lost anybody along the way knows that's how it works.
For sure.
You forget for a little bit and something weird or odd or strange reminds you completely and it all comes flooding back.
Well, I mean, for us, it's particularly, it can be really tricky because you can be anywhere and we could just be, you know, I often use the example of like going out to get ice cream because this happens, you know, you're out in like with the family or with your friends and then one of our songs comes on in the store. And for you know, if it hits you at the wrong time, like, it's really hard.
It's a 16-track album. Does it take you on that journey? Is it done numerically like that? You start grieving, then you're working through it?
Yeah, it starts, it's a journey like out of that darkness and not into it.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. So like that's one thing that for me I want to make sure that our fans know is like to not be scared to go on the journey with me, because it definitely like I know where we all started, you know, and I think that as it went on, I had some days where you have these like interesting little like realizations. Like one of the days I realized, like I've always listened to music that was like a little dark. Right. Like it's just, I don't know what it's been. It's like it's either dark in the sense of like 9 Inch Nails dark, or it's
sort
like
of mood,
or it's like just like NWA. Like it's, you know what I mean? That kind of like more funny version of it almost. Cause they're like, you know, if you listen, like I don't think Eazy-E was actually running around just shooting people with shotguns.
Right. Most of the time.
Usually. It was usually a different weapon. But I've always been, I had this thought one day that like, I've always loved, that's just been the kind of music I've always listened to. And I haven't had life experiences that have matched the things I'm listening to sometimes. Like sometimes you listen to something and you go, I just like that song.
Right.
And then I realized, oh no, like now I'm like a member of this weird club that I don't want to be a member of. And I listen to these songs completely differently, right? I think that's okay. Like, I don't think there's, you know, sitting in my shoes now versus sitting in my shoes like a year ago. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just reality, you know? And
you said in one of your songs that you feel like you're acting in a play that's already been written or a story that's already been written.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of the feeling, right?
That's the fear.
The fear.
It was more of for me, it was more of a fear that I don't have any control over anything. And that's like, I think that's one of the worst human feelings. Like if you feel like you're out of control, like that's really where a lot of our acting out starts, where you know, so many bad things about human beings, when human beings do bad things to each other or do them to themselves, it's usually because there's that element of feeling out of control.
Yeah, and fear-based completely.
Yeah. So without getting too deep about it, I think like just for me, I needed to feel like, okay, I want to have a purpose. I've got a skill set. I've got a thing that I've got multiple things that I love to do. I've always drawn and painted for my whole life since I was like 3. I've played music since I was 3 or 4. And these are the things that I love to do. I'd do them. I'd pay to do them. I don't, you know, not only would I do them for free, I'd pay. So to be able to do that in a way that I know kind of helps communicate, or almost like moves our narrative along. Like I can tell the fans, this is where I'm at today, and it can be a conversation back and forth. I feel like when I've spoken to fans, whether it's in person or on the internet, I feel like that's been helpful so far.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't bowling. Right? Like, let's all come together and just really bowl.
Let's bowl for one another.
I mean, I've always held in high regard people who can write people who can take complex feelings and write a song and actually say it in a way that other people can relate to, because I don't have that skill. So you said art is something that you always turn to when you're trying to clarify things or get through emotional things or whatever. And I'm grateful that you have that skill, because I don't.
Thank you.
And it's really important to be able to find music that you can relate to no matter what you're feeling. And there's a lot of people who relate to the things that you're saying, and that art is an amazing talent.
Thank you. I remember we had a day a couple weeks ago, I was shooting the video for this song that you just played. And
if you missed it, we're talking to Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park and Fort Minor, and now doing solo work. Crossing a Line is the name of the song. We'll play it again in about 5 minutes.
So we did. I decided from the beginning of this thing, like I was shooting my own videos. Like I was literally shooting them on the. You've got 2 cameras on your phone. I was shooting them on the bad one on purpose.
Okay,
like,
good.
It's basically I wanted.
That's what I say when I take bad pictures and video.
Blame it on the camera. Yeah, I was. But the thing is, I was. I wanted it to have that feeling of like when you're like FaceTiming or Skyping someone. Like it's just me and you. There isn't like some fancy camera in between. There isn't some director editing things. Like a lot of the things, the 3 songs that I put out before, I don't know how long it was, a couple months ago, were done that way. And then so when we decided to put out Crossing a Line, I wanted to shoot the video in a way that was like not quite that, but was still very intimate and like that I kind of had a little bit of, again, it kind of came to like a control thing. I wanted to make sure that the message and the feeling of the video was really what I was feeling. And so I said, okay, I want to go down to Sunset where the band started.
I want to hold you right there. We have to take a break.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mike Shinoda is here. The song is Crossing a Line. We're going to play it again, and then when we come back, you can tell us about the video shoot for that song, and we'll talk all about your solo career.
Okay.
As well, next.
The Kevin and Bean Show on KROQ.
Brand new music from Mike Shinoda, the solo artist, called Crossing a Line. I'd like to welcome everybody that's watching on Facebook Live. This has to be strange for you, Mike. I know you've lived this life for a long time, but Mexico, Russia, Indonesia, Slovakia, India, Greece, South Korea, Turkey, Brazil, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Czech Republic. I mean, that has to be weird to you knowing that people are watching this interview.
This last year has made me so grateful for all of these, the opportunity to do this and to get, to put out music, to be able to record music, to have anybody care about it. Like it's really, it's like a new life in a sense. It's special.
I imagine you get some support too during super difficult times, which you've had.
Yeah.
From people on social media and everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, as I mean, you're a parent, like you hear a lot like, kids are always on their devices. Like we grew up in a time, I grew up in a time where it was like kind of in the middle of that, where that came in the middle of my like as I was already kind of an adult. The one that and the parents who complain about young people being on their phones and being connected on social media and less so in person, I get that. I also have to say, like, through this experience, I've seen people connecting in a way online that if they didn't have that, they wouldn't have had the connection.
It's a different type of connection.
It is, and it's really, I think it can be really positive if they just have to choose to use it that way.
All right, just before we broke and were rudely interrupted by me, you were telling us Crossing a Line, making the video.
Yeah, one thing that I needed as I was starting to go through this whole thing, like it's a very personal process. Grief is a personal process, coming out of that and just dealing with the various things that having a friend pass away, and not just that, but also the fact that I had, like, it had totally devastated and disrupted my my life's work. Like we built this thing as a group of 6 guys, and it relied on all 6 of us.
Apart from your friendship, it's also a business.
Yeah. But it's also, it's like imagine, it's not just, when you say business, like, it's not just business. It's like if you're Picasso and you rely on somebody else to provide you with the paints, the canvases, the place to do it, the whatever, and that is taken away. Like, right. It's not just the living, like the making a living part of it. It's the this is what I do. This is kind of like who I am, and that part of your identity gets shifted. And there's definitely a point for me where I said, does this mean that I'm not an artist anymore? Like, does this mean I don't have a career anymore?
Those thoughts went through your head.
For sure. And it's like, oh, yeah, does this, any weird thought you can have, any like what is that?
Self-doubt?
It is, yeah, that's actually even better than what I was going to say. So
yes,
thank you.
That's never happened. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark it down, guys.
I definitely had those thoughts often in the first, couple months especially. And I had I think as it went along, I realized, that if I took the reins on it and I decided to just kind of go out with this stuff on my own, I could navigate this without having to feel like I was beholden to everybody else that had seen it a certain way for so long. Like I needed the freedom to kind of like just wipe the slate clean and say, okay, I'm going to just start with something new. And that's why I didn't call it Fort Minor. That's why I didn't bring it to the band and all that stuff. And when I told the guys in the band that, I was so nervous. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I think is right for me.
They were like, "Thanks, man."
And then they all. It was like a gang. Got jumped in. They just beat the hell out of me. And they were so supportive. They were so cool. They still have been. Like Brad sent me a text last night. He's like, "Dude, congrats! Like tomorrow's a big day. Wow. So proud of you." And that's the kind of friends these guys are. They're good guys,
So you go from that aspect of, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm doing this album. 16 tracks comes out in June. This is
and we've
huge.
never done an album that long. It's a long album.
It's like, calm down, Mike. I mean, right on the gate, right?
Dude.
But then you're going to go on this tour. You're up there by yourself. That's a whole other vulnerability that you need to work through.
Yeah, so with the shows, I had done a couple of solo shows in the past few years that were just like these little assorted Fort Minor shows. And it's totally a challenge. Like if you're up there with multiple people, you always have this, like in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if I make a mistake, that there's always the possibility somebody was looking at someone else.
Right.
But if you're up there alone, they are definitely looking at you.
Yeah, they are.
Right? And also just the heavy lifting of like keeping it interesting. So I'm up for that challenge. I want to start there. If it ends up not being, if I end up wanting to add, other people to the mix as I go, again, I'm playing it by ear. I don't have nothing's written in stone. I have the
good.
stuff.
You're so open about it, and what happens, and you're willing to adapt.
Yeah, that's, I think for me, that makes it more fun. And that was even to go back to, this is the long way of getting back to your original
I was going to say, I've given up on that.
No, I for a second I was thinking, like, should I even come back to that? But all of this, with all that context, things like shooting a video, I can just say, I feel like shooting a video tomorrow. I feel like,
as a matter of fact, you did that.
And that's exactly what I said. We're going to shoot tomorrow. We're going to go down to Sunset, where our band started, where I started my music career, at least publicly. Visit those places, get in tune with like what that felt like. 45 minutes before I got to where I was going, I tweeted to the fans, and I told them that if they wanted to be in the thing I was shooting, to come down to Tower Records parking lot in 45 minutes. And I even thought, as I was writing it, should I say for a new song for my new album, because I haven't said that before. And I just said, yeah, I want to say that. And I just wrote it. Like, that's the type of thing that I would have, if I was with the band, I would have to run that by everybody. It would be a thing to do we say this now? How do we, what? And I don't have to do that. I just say, come down in 45 minutes. Let's meet. And we did. And we shot this beautiful thing. The video's up now. I think it should be up by now, for Crossing a Line, and it was all shot that night. The fans were there. We told these beautiful they were telling me their stories about Chester, about me, about the band, about themselves, and people showed up in their work clothes because I only gave them 45 minutes of notice. This girl was there with wearing Magic Mountain. She was wearing her Magic Mountain uniform with her name tag still on,
and she was supposed to probably be there at that moment.
Totally.
So she's going to show up in the video. That's not going to be good. Mike, can you stick around for one more break?
I can.
Do you mind?
Sure.
And I just wanted to point out, if you don't know for sure what you're doing in the future, I'm really a good cowbell player.
I'm
just throwing it out there.
Nothing's written in stone. Let's
right?
we'll do a little
jam session.
A little jam after this. Yeah.
All right. Mike Shinoda is here. We'll be right back. And it is 7:37. We are here with Mike Shinoda, Linkin Park, Fort Minor, now solo project. You have written most of the songs for most of those other bands?
I'm the
primary songwriter?
Yeah, it's basically like I'm kind of leading the charge on the the writing thing and the studio thing. I've basically been our in-group producer for basically the whole time, and we didn't even realize that that's what I was doing until like the third record.
Right. That's what I'm doing. Okay.
I think it was Rick Rubin that said like, no, you're like the producer in the band, and I went, I am? Like,
See, that's why Rick Rubin is a genius.
Yeah, if Rick Rubin tells you you're the producer, you're the producer.
It was a cool conversation. Well, because you've worked, like he's worked with so many different types of artists, and he said, and the conversation was revolving something around like, I've worked with a lot of artists, and you guys have your own way of doing things. Like you're a pretty unique animal in terms of how you write and record a song. And I think for the record, I actually think that we're like, I think more groups do it that way now than they did at the time. At the time, it was more rare to kind of use like your computer as a writing tool and as almost like its own instrument. And now everybody kind of uses their laptop as your writing tool. So
when you start writing for a solo project, first of all, you decided to do a solo project just because everything was at a difficult point. You needed to express stuff, and you didn't need a committee to try and help you. That was the decision-making process?
Yeah, it's that the main thing is that like I knew the things I had to say. Grief is like a personal thing to start with, but then also the things I had to say were specific in some cases to me, and I'd already been feeling like, the guys knew this, that I had already been feeling like I wanted to put out some solo music at some point soon anyway. Mm-hmm. I had been talking to them about Fort Minor stuff as far back as like over a year ago. And not that I was going to do it immediately, but just that it was in my head. And
still your interest,
yeah.
Sure.
And so when this started, after I started making a couple songs, I mean, the part of it was just the catharsis of doing it. Like whenever I've had something difficult happen in my life, I go straight to art. Like I go straight to drawing and painting and making songs. Even if the songs and art aren't about the thing that happened. I just do it. Like it's even almost like, there's a limited, as an example, like there's a limited edition version of the album that's available now. If you go on MikeShinoda.com, we've got the like standard edition, and then the next level up has a book. And part of the book has drawings that I've done that I did during the past 6 months, 8 months. And I did these drawings just outline style. And I realized like I could start to like flesh them out and color them, whatever. But I thought it'd be more fun to just give those drawings to the fans and let them color them in, because that sitting and doing something like that, like I feel like that's really, there's something meditative about it. This just feels really great. And for me, at least, it really clears my head. And so I wanted to almost like put that out there as a way to encourage other people to have that experience.
And how is that being received? Do people send you their version of it?
And they haven't gotten them yet.
They haven't gotten them yet.
This is literally the ad. When the album comes out in June, those will ship then.
I feel like, Mike, 16 tracks. I'm giving you a coloring book. Slow down. Relax,
I feel like that. No, that's so true. I feel so bad for like our.
And then the next level up, I walk your dog.
Ryan,
just let me know.
Ryan in the other room, who has been with our management team since like the beginning. Like I will send him notes about. I'll send him like, oh, and we should do this. Oh, what about this? Have you talked to this person? Like at all hours of the night. Like it's gotta be, I don't know. I know that's my personality. And I also like the other guys, like I was joking about our drummer Rob and in this whole, everybody in Linkin Park is in a different like almost like timeline of like what feels good to them, like what they want to do. For example, Phoenix, he started a podcast. He really one of the things that he loves besides music is golf. And he has a bunch of friends who are golfers, pro golfers and so on. And he started a podcast with his friend Brendan, who's a PGA golfer. And they have this music and golf podcast called Member Guest. That's what Dave's up to.
Yeah.
Rob, I was joking with him because I was like, what is he up to? What are you up to? He's like literally left town and like he went on this it was like a vegan cleanse meditative journey. Like, I'm being a little bit facetious, but it kind of was actually that. And I imagine him in flowing linen robes.
Sure.
His beard has grown out down to his waist.
Vow of silence.
Yeah. Just he actually looks a little bit like Jared Leto in my head, like a little bit like that. Yeah,
a lot of capes.
Very handsome.
Yeah,
lots of linens and.
All right, let me ask this: Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Future thoughts. I know you don't know, but thoughts.
Well, we've talked about. I think that we're waiting. I'll say just for me, I'm waiting to see what kind of reveals itself, because I've looked at it and said, number one, first and foremost, let's not forget that Chester was like one of the greatest rock singers of all time.
No question.
Period.
Yeah.
And that's not just me as a friend. Like, this dude has his voice is like, there's just nothing like it. And so just personally, I have to wrap my head around the idea that, like, I want to be able to get on stage and play a song of ours. I feel like if we do that and we just don't do Chester's parts and let the crowd sing it,
right?
That's, first of all, very heavy. That we did that at the Hollywood Bowl show, and that like felt like 1,000,000 pounds sitting on top of your stomach.
It felt pretty good to me in the audience. It did.
It's interesting.
Could you do that for 90 minutes?
No, I don't know about that, but it really was. I think that helped.
Yeah,
in a way.
I know that
night.
That night, in context, that night, that was there were special moments like that. In looking forward into like what is the band, those questions have to get answered, right? And I don't have those answers. So I think by going out into the world and just exploring what's out there, hopefully I'll find some of those answers.
Now, speaking of Linkin Park and Fort Minor, what are your solo sets going to be like? You're playing, you're headlining Identity LA.
Yes.
May 12th.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, thank you for remembering. I forgot. We just announced that May 12th is a show. It's a celebration of Asian culture. It's going to be a show at City Hall in LA. It's also free. So if you come on May 12th, Identity LA is me, Jay Park, and Hotel Garuda. And the food is by Roy Choi, who so you're going to be well fed.
Lead with that.
Yeah. The headliner of the show is Roy Choi. I will be opening for Roy Choi. So that's going to be fun. And that one might actually be different. I'm not sure.
Set list.
I know that I have. I haven't like written the set list. I haven't figured out exactly what I want to do. But I do want to start from the perspective of like doing a solo show, like just doing a kind of a one-man show, and. I'll probably do that. I'll do that at home in rehearsal and see how entertaining it is to me,
right?
And take it from there. If I need a little more something in the set, then we'll add it.
And then you just announced on Instagram you're doing overseas. You're doing Reading and Leeds.
Reading and Leeds, yeah.
Late October.
Yeah.
August. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
So you haven't even started thinking about a set list for that, or how?
I've got not the set list. I mean, I've got some ideas about how I want to present things, but I don't. I haven't written a set list.
Here's the thing, Mike Shinoda. Take all the time you need with this stuff.
No, I got to tell you, I'm happy to have new music.
No, absolutely. No, happy to have new music. It's so fun to see how excited he is about this journey that you're about to go on.
Yeah.
But for all the other stuff, it'll happen when it happens.
I'll just I'll totally take your advice and then show up on May 12th and be like, you guys, I'm here.
Let's just see how it goes.
I haven't rehearsed anything. What songs do you want to hear?
I like it.
All right, maybe not that far. Maybe not that far.
All right, Mike, we always love that you come to KROQ and to the Kevin and Bean Show. We always really appreciate that. You and your band have been so good to us.
Thank you. I love being here.
And we feel like part of KROQ is built on you and your band as well, so we appreciate that. Before we go, I would like to do 60 seconds with Mike Shinoda.
Let's do it.
So just rapid fire questions. You give me whatever you can think of.
For the record, this is my like Achilles heel. This is like the worst. I'm the worst at this.
Oh, I'm happy to do it then.
I'm horrible at this.
All right. I sort of have crafted the questions just for you specifically.
Okay.
In most cases. All right, here we go. You used to love Pokemon. Do you have a new favorite game?
My son is playing Dragonwood with me.
Dragonwood. Dog kisses on the mouth, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the thing most people would be surprised to find out about you?
I can't touch my shoulders.
What?
From this direction? Like I can't, my arms don't bend that far.
You're like a T-Rex.
I'm
What's
like
happening?
a T-Rex, little T-Rex arms.
Have you ever been in a fight?
Yes.
Do you think it would be foolish for a parent to try and give his 1-year-old son a birthday cake with no sugar?
Oh, that's foolish.
Could you text Jay-Z right now?
No.
Do you ever sit back and think to yourself, I really wish I had Brad's hair?
Yes.
You do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the first album you ever got?
Think might have been Licensed to Ill. No, it was Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi.
It's Bon Jovi before that.
That's it. That's all the time we
Slippery When Wet?
I think so.
Nice.
Yeah, I got all those around like the same time. It was like the door open to like you can get music, and it was I know I got Beastie Boys' License to Ill and Run DMC's self-titled album and Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet.
Wow. Awesome.
I mean, it really set the stage for everything that I do. Everything that I do.
That's very true. Mike Shinoda, thanks very much for coming in. We appreciate it. We're happy to see that you're happy and adjusting as well as you can.
Thank you.
We're happy about the solo music. We love having that, and we hope to hear from you soon again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.